That's me. I want to talk briefly about how the course is scheduled or organized more. These first 3 weeks are dealing with sort of introductory kinds of matters, certain principles of the class that we'll use for later assignments, as well as certain skills like Google. I see that a few people have not used Google before. Do not panic. I'm going to show you how to use Google, and I'm totally available now that they've now fixed my internet to help you actually work it out online. If you continue to have problems, we can schedule a personal Zoom meeting and I can walk you through it step by step. One of the main things that we're working on in this first couple weeks is the idea of rhetoric. Rhetoric is basically, it's a lot of different terms, a lot of different definitions floating out there, and a lot of times it's a pretty negative use. But rhetoric is basically using writing or speech to communicate something and to get something done through in a particular situation. And so that's why we have these different categories that I asked you to do for your workplace writing. Waiting room. Admit. Great. Hi, Dana. So we're going to go over some things to do with the Google Docs. Another thing to do as you work with Google or anything is ask the other people in the class, because everybody's coming to this class from a different position in your life. Some of you have been in school for a while. Some of you are just coming back to school. Some of you have been in other writing classes. Some of you, this is the first time. And I know one of the things that's a really challenge this semester is every teacher is doing things slightly differently. I know we're all using different kinds of platforms for contact, and so many of our classes are totally online. And so the experience is pretty stressful. I understand that for everybody. So feel free to ask me how to do things. So, I want to reiterate something that about how the course is sort of arranged. I'm teaching online, I'm teaching in person. I'm also recording these, and then I'm sharing these later. If you cannot participate in a synchronous time, either in class or away from class, then you need to look at the recording. Almost every time there will be an activity that we do that day. And so you can be seen as participating if you actually do the activity. So in the case of Tuesday's class, that activity was this Google Doc, which is you know, it's a continuous document. And so even if you weren't there on Tuesday, you can go into the Google Doc later and do what's being asked of you. Does anybody have any questions just about in general before I go ahead?
Yes, I'm sorry. I have one question, Ms. Madsen. What's your availability inside the your office or your class?
So I'm coming to campus for this class pretty much only. So, and I am having office hours before and after. So I'd be happy to see anybody during the class or before and after. I can also arrange, you know, if you contact me, I can arrange something else. But that's my standard schedule as I am right now. there's a class both before and after, so I will have to go back to my office and interact there. And right now, my computer in my office isn't working that great, so it may, if I do it right then and you can't come to campus, then I probably have a phone conversation with you. Does that answer?
Yes, ma'am. Thank you so much.
Okay. I'm also always available on email. So even though my internet was down, my phone still got email. So I was able to communicate with people elsewhere. So I wanted to make sure everybody saw how I am putting things on Blackboard. So does everybody see the Blackboard screen online?
Yes.
Good, thank you.
Yes.
So the navigation menu of Blackboard, I've added a Zoom link for class. And if you click on that, it should take you to the Zoom link. It's the same link every time. I will often put it in an announcement, which I send by email, which means that in your URL email, you also have a place where you can click on it for the Zoom license. I have also created sections called course units. And under each unit, I'm going to put whoops. Under each unit, I will put, maybe we should open a new window. I'm not sure why I didn't. We're going to be, all right. Click the link below. That is actually the recording. I guess this is better. Here's the list of the course units. So here are the introductory sessions, 25th and 27th. We didn't have a 27th. Now we're in unit 1, and I've given you the recording there. And it looks like some of the other things that should be there are not showing. I will take a look at that later. But you can always get let's see. That should have been available. All right. Well, I will take a look and see what's wrong here, because it all looks like it should be available. Additionally, on the navigation menu, I have the Weebly site. You click on that, and you'll get over to Writing for the Workplace. Each week, I will add another link, another week. So if you click on weeks 1 through 6, you now see week 1 getting started, week 2, the rhetoric of workplace writing, and week 3, the design of workplace writing. By the way, there's also a link back to Blackboard there, so you can get back there. There's also something called Technology Tips and Resources, and it has Google Drive, Google Docs information. So if you're having any problem with using that, as well as a variety of other sort of online sources. Questions just about the organization of things? All right, so
Miss Matson,
yes.
I have a question. It's Veronica. We were supposed to, I think I read somewhere, like turn a memo in on Blackboard to you. Was that due? That wasn't due today, correct?
No, on
That's
next class, Tuesday.
okay.
I'll talk about that at the end of class today.
Okay, thank
Yeah,
you.
the spotlight thing. Are you asking about the spotlight difference handout thing?
Spot the
No.
differences? Yeah.
I was talking about something else, but I was working ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Okay, so we're going to start talking a little bit more about Google Drive and Google Docs to make sure you know how to use it. Where do you get Google Drive? You log into ULR's email, and I'm suggesting that you do it this way rather than some other way, because that way you are definitely in ULR's email, and then you will get the ULR Google Drive and not some Google Drive associated with a personal Gmail account that you have. Another way you can do it is to just log into Google Drive, and it'll ask you which email account you want, especially once you've done this a couple times. It'll know to ask you the two different ones. The way to get to Google Drive, and if you haven't done this before, I strongly recommend that you follow along with me. And if you run into a problem, you let me know. And so then I can help you as you do it. So the tic-tac-toe box in any Google item, like our email, because it's part of the G Suite, gives you all the different things that Google has now bought. So it's pretty kind of amazing what Google has put together. And I didn't even seen this. So it has now a podcast app and a Jamboard. I know about Google Earth. I know about Forms and Meet, et cetera, sites. So there are a lot of different things, but all we want is Google Drive, which is the triangle, the green, yellow, and blue triangle. You click on that and you will get your UALR My Drive. Depending on whether you've used it or not, it'll be populated or not. Now I've used a lot, and I have my Google Drive mirroring my home computer. So all my folders are here. And as you can see, it's just kind of overwhelming. And I have so many that the ones that I need to use currently, I changed their names so that they start with 0. So they will come up top of the folder. But what I've asked you to do is to create a folder for this class. To do that, you click on the left plus sign and new, and you will see a variety of new things you can create. You can upload a file, you can upload a folder, so something that's already on a hard drive of some kind, you can upload it into the cloud. You can create a new Google Doc, you can create a Google Sheet, which is Google version of Excel. You can make a Google Slides, which is Google's version of PowerPoint. And you can make all these other apps that we saw that Google has purchased or embedded. But right now, all we want to do is create a new folder. And what I want you to do is call it something like Matson, Rhet 3316. What's important to me, is that it starts with your last name and that you've given it some kind of name, so you're going to know what it is. Hopefully you'll never get in a situation like I am with all these different folders. And then I'm going to start it with zero, zero. I'm just going to do that so that it shows up at the top of my list. And you can see here, all of my folders, you know, I've given them names that I had an old teaching folder. I have a teaching folder. And then in my teaching folder, I have all these different folders for each of the classes I have taught. And again, I start them with 0 or 00 or 000 if I need to put it at the top of the list. You can sort them by name, by owner, by last modified. And the default sort is by name, alphabetical. And this is why I put the zeros at the front so that I can know that. Now, one of the things you'll notice at the top of list of folders is a collection of documents. And what it does is all these letters or all these documents that I have opened up recently, it shows it up. It assumes that I'm going to probably want one of the things I've been working on recently. But if the one I'm looking for doesn't show up there, it has, I also can click on recent, and that will give me the most recent in order. And so you see here that there's a timing. So when I open these, so these are the ones I opened today. These are the ones I opened yesterday. Here's the class recording, etc. I can also click on shared with me. These are documents that somebody shared with me. So I was shared something from Joyce Carter, who's my department chair, Amanda Nolan, who's the Faculty Senate President, Christiane Hall, who's a student in another class, Cindy Narwald, who's a professor in my department. And again, the list has all the things here. And one of the things you can do is try to find something by searching for, you know, the person who shared it with you. There's a way of starring. I don't actually do that. I use my own, but you can. Hello? Tam Scott?
I'm sorry, this is Talia again. I had to tops
okay.
and it's my mom's name on here.
Okay, okay. Yeah, see, that's why Zoom created this admit so that no stranger can come in, and I just clicked on admit anyway.
It's okay. I promise after today, I will be normal.
It's not a problem.
Okay.
I figure, you know, if somebody wants to Zoom bomb my class, fine. You know, there's nothing really disastrous that could happen, I think.
Miss Matson,
Yes.
I created my folder. This is Veronica. My last name's Bradshaw. I see it there. Was I not supposed to share that with you? I don't know.
I saw that you shared it with me. That's great.
Is that okay? Okay.
That's great. You didn't have to yet, but I'm going to have you share it later, so.
Oh, okay,
that's
good.
fine.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions about Drive? There is also something called Share Drive, and we might end up doing that for the class depending on what's going on, but I thought that's enough to worry about for now. Share Drive, it allows you to share a drive between people in the same organization, which in this case is ULR. And so if I click on my share drive, here are all the committees I'm on. And we all have we've created a shared drive for these committees. And then we don't have to individually share each document with each other. We're all listed as shared owners of the documents, and we can all work together on that. And you see here the members, it depends on how big the group is. So you can have a variety of members. Okay, does everybody understand just the basic principle about Google Drive? All right, now what I want to return to is the Google Doc that we are working on. So on the Rhet 316 class prep for Tuesday, September 1, and what I'm going to be doing every day or every class is I will probably be sending a follow-up to every class that will have the recording and maybe something that I realized as I was watching the recording. I will also send a announcement called, class prep for the day, which, because it's a Blackboard announcement, will go out to your email. And it will tell you what we're going to be working on, and if you need to it'll kind of remind you about homework, etc. So and it'll try to help you get set up for class. I realize some of you, your timing won't allow you to do whatever needs to be done to get set up. But so my goal was on the Tuesday class was to have you all know that we were going to take this list of workplace documents. Somebody up there. We were going to take this list of workplace documents and we were going to work on this Google Doc. So I gave you the Google Doc in there. Has everybody opened the Google Doc now? Is there anybody who still hasn't figured out how to get to that Google Doc we were working on? So I'm going to assume silence is fineness.
I was able to open it. However, I see that they were highlighted. So like, were we supposed to highlight our work or were you highlighting? I'm sorry, I missed that part.
So what happens is that when people add to something and they add a comment, it gets highlighted. So what this is saying here, right when you start, we have S-bar documentation, which is, Brenda, what is an S-bar documentation?
So S-bar documentation is like basic background and situation about like a current client in a hospital facility.
Is that nursing?
Yes.
Yes, you put it under nursing. Okay, great.
It is. It is under nursing.
I asked everybody. So much for asking them to be quiet. that door shut, if that helps a little. We might have to, if they can't get their act together next week, I might have to totally do a Zoom class. You asked me about that once. They promised they were going to be working on the weekends rather than while we were in classes, but I'm in the Building and Grounds Committee, among others, and I will speak to the people in charge to see if there's something we can do about that. Anyway, so the highlights happen when you add a comment, and I asked everybody to put a comment on it so that we know who it is that wrote it. We actually can tell who wrote it if you look at the version history. So in any Google Doc, so Google Doc is different than Microsoft Word kind of things. You don't have to save it. It saves itself automatically as long as your internet keeps working. It's all saved in the cloud, and all versions of something are saved in the cloud. So under File, you can look at version history, and you can see version history. And the version history tells you everybody who's typed. So you can see here that, you know, I created it September 1, and then in class, these are all the people who were writing in class, and they added things, and they're color-coded. So if you actually look at this version, you see all the colors. And so you really don't even need to put a comment that tells me that you added this. I can look in the version history, but I just wanted you to have the experience of adding a comment so that you knew that.
Okay, that's what I got wrong. That's what I was doing wrong. I was typing it in, like just typing it in, editing. I didn't type comment, so I took mine away. And okay, so I have to add a comment. That's the part I
Who's
missed.
talking?
Talia.
Yeah, okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Can't always tell. Well, since I'm sharing, I don't have the full Zoom up. So you could do this. Oh, I don't want to complicate it. So then, because this document exists up in the cloud, Alyssa and Veronica added to it September 2nd at 6:10. I guess they were both at the same time. And so Alyssa is sort of a tealish green, and Veronica is a darker green. And I don't know, they both look green to me. Anyway, but again, the color is sort of, so this is more aqua, that must be Alyssa's. And this is more Kelly, that must be Veronica's. And then today, oh, I just did some editing. Gave me green. Doesn't show any, I didn't actually change any text. I just did some indenting to make it all kind of clean. Reagan added something, and she's going to be orange. So you can see what Reagan added. She got a letter from the EIT department today, or she added it today. And then now here at 1:40, we have Brenda and Dana have done some adding of some kind. Dana is a dark blue, Brenda is a green. So here's green, and here's Dana. And then back to right now. And another thing you can see about a Google Doc is see all these letters or pictures up here. That means those people have this document open on their computer. or internet somewhere, could be on the phone. The Destiny has changed her Google profile so that there's a picture. And so we see there are 3 more people. You can list there all the people that are on there. Document editors can see your view history for this site. And then this is the comment stream. So that's just showing you all these comments, which we already see over on the side. We don't have to see. One of the things you can do is you can set the notifications so you get notified anytime anybody adds to a Google Doc you're working on. Now this can become a pain, so you only want to do it probably if you want to get notifications. I'll periodically get a notification from a student who worked in a class like 2 years ago on a paper because they're working on the paper again. But I often have it set so that I get notifications every time somebody works on the document. Because I want to know, on a document that the class is working on, because I want to know when students are doing it. You may want to set it so you don't get notification or you only get notifications of yours. I'm not sure really, that doesn't make sense to me. You can also add a comment through here. Then, one last thing from here is up next to the name of the document, there are a couple icons. There's a star. You can star something to make it a priority, which I tend not to do because I have too many things that would become priority, so I just have my own system. And there's the cloud. It just tells you what status it is. This is the one that you need to use to add something to your drive. And the problem we had the other day is you really hadn't necessarily all added a My Drive yet. And so you couldn't necessarily all add it to it. But so you click on here and it lets you move it to somewhere. So right now, we'll just go back. What would happen is if you've never moved it, if it's just out there on the web, you will get My Drive. And you can add it to your My Drive. And what you need to do for anything that I send you is add it to your folder for this class. So under My Drive, and you just all saw me create this Matson folder, which is now empty, and I can say move here. And then I get this blue thing up here. Okay, so now it is in that folder that I created for the class. I'm going to have to probably move it somewhere else, but we'll worry about that. Okay. There are many other things to deal with Google Documents, but those are some of the basics. The editing menu is not quite as robust as Microsoft Word, but it's more or less the same things. And if you've ever used Microsoft Word, it should not take you very long to figure out how to edit in Google Docs. One of the things about Google Docs that is very easy is this adding of a link. You insert a link, and then you can share another thing. Questions about Google Docs. So back to this assignment. The assignment is to come up with was originally to come up with a list of all the workplace documents you came up with, that interacted with, and then we just added them to organize. It does not matter if these are workplace documents from your work. All it is you could be a person who's receiving something from some other person's work. So for example, all of these university things, email from ULR, email from ULR Veterans Office, letters from colleges about colleges, check financial aid information, writing internship documentation. These are, most of you don't work at ULR. Veronica, I guess, does, right? I, however, do work, so it's clearly my workplace document. But you, as a student at ULR, are a client of all these people who work at ULR, and they are creating workplace documents all the time that they're sending to you. And so you need to think about what its audience, purpose, goal, what it is they want you to do from all these things. So that's where we are on that. Questions? So if you haven't yet figured out how to add, hopefully now you do, and you can go ahead and add all that. And again, the basic principle about this synchronous, asynchronous stuff is I'm creating activities so that even if you have to participate remotely, asynchronously by watching the recording, there's an activity out there that you can participate in later the same way. And we're going to start with that with today's activity. So we are going to start talking again about share the differences. Spot the differences. And we started talking about this on Tuesday. And we started talking about the original memo to residents and the revision. So we have this memo to residents, and we have my revision. Let's just kind of review what we talked about on Tuesday. What made the revision better?
Just adding
It was
structure.
better stated. It was blocked out. It made things more clear of what was going to be taking place during those days and hours.
Okay, it was there were blocks and there were lists that made it much more clear. It's much easier to see a list of days when it's listed vertically than if it's in a sentence. You know, it's just hard to keep track. And so that made it much more clear. What else made it much more clear?
I think just the outline that was used, the formatting, it just seems more organized. It's more appealing to look at.
What things did I use from a technical perspective to make it seem more
Like
organized?
the bold lettering. Some of the words are italicized, they look like.
Okay, so bold, italics. I'm sorry, what? Spacing. One of the things that's really important in workplace writing is what's called white space. So it turns out that the more white space you have on a page, the easier it is to read the black letters or whatever color we're talking about. That the white space provides this edge and this border and this focus that helps you zoom in, so to speak, on the text that you're trying to see. When everything is just crowding, it's hard for your eyes to light on what they need to look at. Okay, good. So you guys have done a great job. So we're going to do a workshop. We're going to try doing an in-class workshop. We're going to try the group tool. The people here on campus are going to be one group, and then the rest of you are going to be two groups. I'll stop recording. Participants. Where's my ... I neglected to figure out how to do that. Okay. So, I wonder if I didn't purchase the right. Okay, we're going to have one large group online and one group here. So what we will do is I'd like everybody to get on your screen, the people here I'm going to give you in person. Everybody on their screen, if you will, get both of these documents that are called it's on the spot, the Differkins handout. It's called the original memo about getting a replacement tax refund and a revision. Is everybody able to get that?
I actually printed them out.
So either if you reprinted them or if you can get them on multiple screens. So I am going to somehow all right,
The tax refund or the memo?
the
So,
tax refund.
okay.
All right, I'm going to give everybody time to read the original. I guess. And what I'd like to figure out is how to turn off the sound. We'll just have to work it as it goes. I must not have created the option to create this. Huh. Okay. What I'd like you to do is to read these two memos and talk with each other in your group. So we have one large group online and you can talk to each other. So you'll have to unmute yourselves. And we'll try not to listen here. And the three people who are here, the Destiny, Riuna, and Paul, they'll be at one group and they'll try to talk to each other. So by staying more or less 6 feet apart, you guys can talk to each other. We'll try not to listen to each other. And the 6 people who are online will talk to each other, and I will stay out of it. And I want you to talk together about the difference between the two documents. So Destiny, you might need to get a little. I'm
First
gonna
thing,
mute.
well,
Hey everyone, Brenda here.
the first thing I see is the header
Yeah, I don't know if you
with the date
Yes,
of place.
yeah. I was about to say the same.
Even what they're requesting is different. It's more tailored towards, the actual subject of the letter. There's more white space on the letter. It's more organized. There's bold lettering. It's formatted.
Yes. Yeah, it's more format, like you said, with the bolding and the place different.
To me, it kind of looked like they took out the stuff that just didn't need to be there. It's just
Didn't
simple.
matter. Mhm.
Yeah, it's more instructional on what you need to do.
Yeah, so like the header and
Also,
the reply line, and they took a lot of the all caps out
dear
on a whole
John.
bunch of it.
Wow. Wow.
It's very easy. The revision is overall.
Yes, and the things that the folks needed to focus on in the letter are actually in bold print. Things that need to be completed or done.
And the way it ends, it's more, I would say, professional on the provides. Please provide instead of just provide your account ID.
So the grammar, look at the, yeah.
To me, it just overall just looks more appealing, period, the letter. It just, your eye goes to it more. Because of the changes.
I think that's it. Reading it.
Let me ask everybody, do you all know what a warrant is when you start reading this?
No.
When you start to read the first one, the original.
First one, yeah.
Yeah, no.
No, I have no idea.
Okay, so one of the changes has to do with explaining what these vocabulary terms are, because normally we use warrant as in something for an arrest.
Right.
So if I received this thing in the mail, which a student actually did, my first thought would be, oh my God, they're trying to arrest me for something.
Right.
Yeah, of
They're
course.
accusing me of doing something about my tax refund.
Right.
So take a look and see how I've tried to deal with that whole issue in the revision.
Yeah, it has a totally different meaning when you look at it. To me, it even stirred a different emotion.
Yeah, because that was let me see. It has warrant placement in all caps.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah.
So what are some of the changes that I made?
There's more white space. It looks more structured. It's bolded.
Bolded and numbered and bulleted, like to the point where it's like the heading that matters, what's most important was organized there.
You took out a lot of the all caps.
What's wrong with all caps?
It makes it seem alarming.
Makes you seem alarming. You know, it's like, ah! Remember, one of the things that I talked about on Tuesday was that there's a relationship between you and the audience that's part of this situation. And there are very few situations probably where you want to alarm your audience. Now, maybe, you know, if you're saying there's a flood coming and you've got to get out of town, maybe all caps might work. What else?
Raised a lot of things for a more clearer explanation.
Which things?
Well, like warrant replacement was changed to request to replace tax refunds.
Okay, so vocabulary, and One of the things that often happens with workplace writing is that the person doing the writing is working with something that they know a lot about. And they forget that their audience may this may be the first time they have heard about this thing. And so you have to think about what is the level of knowledge of your audience, not just you. So the writer of this, I mean, all they do all day long, I guess, is, request this kind of documentation. So thinking about what vocabulary, what things need to be defined so that they know. Notice I also defined a surety later on because I thought that might be a term that the person doesn't really know. I explained that it's a person who confirms whatever. What else was tried to make clear? What's the main thing you see when you look at the document?
It's more,
There's instructions on what you need to do.
Instructions on what you need to do.
It's numbered, 1, 2, etc.
it's more instructional than it is demanding.
Right. And it's much more clear. The center of the whole document is, in order to get this replacement, this is what you need to do. 1, 2. Whereas in the original, it explains that you need it in one paragraph, and then the next paragraph, there's another form, and you have to do that. So this way, it's focusing. What else? How about the introduction and conclusion?
I think that Dear Mr. Smith sounds more, I don't know, it just sounds better than Mr. John Smith in all caps.
Okay,
It sounds
so,
softer or something.
there's almost no reason I can imagine why you would have to say, Dear John Smith in all caps. What else did I change beside caps?
Punctuation.
Punctuation. There was none there originally.
Correct.
So in a letter, dear so-and-so, you can either do a comma after the dear person or a colon. What's the difference between use of a comma or a colon?
A comma is more of like a pause almost, or to separate.
Yeah, but for this particular purpose,
More informal.
the comma is more informal. If you're doing a letter to a friend, you would be more likely to use a comma. If you're doing a letter to a business organization, it's more likely to do a colon. It's just convention that way. You're never going to be wrong using a comma, so if you're not sure, use a comma. Both of them have a ray, R-E, which is a subject line. And that's you usually see in memos, but in letters, you often can actually have that subject line as well. But notice, and you already talked about the clarification. How about the ending of the letter?
This one says, please.
Yeah, so the first sentence is the same. The second sentence, the first sentence is a little different. Why did I add or by mail at the address listed above?
Some people may not want to call anybody, they might just want to send something.
They might want to send, and in fact, on the second line, it says when you call or write about this letter. So apparently writing is also an option, but they just forgot to mention that in that sentence. So that's another thing just to kind of keep in mind. you know, be consistent throughout. So the last sentence I changed slightly. To facilitate service, please provide the letter ID and account ID shown at the top right of this letter versus provide your account ID and letter ID shown above when you call or write about this letter. What differences? I added a please. I also added a reason to facilitate the service. And I clarified a little teeny bit about which is the account and the ID thing. Okay, so you guys are doing great. We have one last step in this whole series of activities. And that is this thing that's listed here for homework for Tuesday, September 8th. What I want you to do is find a document that you received at work or at school. Bring to class and be prepared to show and discuss about ways the document is or is not usable. So I found these two things that were poor and I rewrote them. You don't have to find a bad one. You can. You can find something that's really good that you received and you thought, wow, you know, that clearly tells me what I'm supposed to do with this piece of information and, you know, it helps me. Or you could find something sort of in the middle, you know, it's pretty clear about what I'm supposed to do, but it could have been easier. And here are some things to do. So the document should be something that you come across in your life. I'm saying this because I've had students go out on the web and find examples of bad things. That's not what I want. I want something real that you received. And it could be an email, it could be a print letter, it could be a website that you went to and were trying to use. One of the things that may happen as a result of this class is you start criticizing everybody's communication. You say, you could have done this a lot better, which is fine, as long as you then apply that to your own writing and not let everybody know how much better you are than they. Then what I want you to do is submit the document and analysis to Dr. Mattson via Blackboard for class. Now, as I was looking at the Blackboard earlier, it looks like something is screwed up. I have not, somehow you can't see the submission box when I look at the preview, or at least I couldn't see the submission box. So I will get that fixed before class. But what I want you to do is submit it to Blackboard. What you'll see yeah, see, you should be able to see this. What you will see this is what you should be able to see on this week, on this day, not just the class recording, but all these handouts and the submission box. So something is not functioning right in Blackboard. This is why I ended up leaving Blackboard and putting everything off, because I don't know, I think it's so complex. There's just something that goes wrong every time. Anyway, there should be a submission box for analysis of this assignment. And I will get that fixed, or if not, I will make sure that you know you don't have to do it. You could just bring it to class. Questions? All right, one last thing is I have posted the third week on Weebly. I would like you to, before class on Tuesday, read this little brief summary about what we're going to do. We're going to do something called CRAP. This will explain it. It says, before class, read this short thing. And then on Thursday, we'll deal with parallelism, okay? So 2 pieces of homework. Find a document, be prepared to talk about what makes it well done or not. Write that out and submit it in Blackboard before class, unless I can't get this submission box fixed. 2, look at week 3 on the course site and just read it and do what it says to do. Okay? All righty. Questions online?
Nope, good, thank you.
Yes? By the way, there is should be a way you can raise your hand somehow. Maybe not. Huh. You know what I think? I had a free version of Zoom, and then I upgraded, but I don't think they've given me all the upgrades yet.
I know on Blackboard, you can raise your hand. I know on Blackboard.
Blackboard Collaborate, you can raise your hand. Maybe I'll have to work. I mean, on Zoom, you should be able to raise your hand on the not free version. So, like you should be able to divide it into groups. All right. All right, see you next week. Have a great weekend. Have a good Labor Day.
Thank you, you too.
Extra day to do homework.
Thank you, you too, bye-bye.
Bye.